To the soul. Is anyone there? If so, are you real? Either way, are you one or several? If the latter, are you all at once, or do you take turns not answering? Is your answer the question itself, surviving the asking without end? Whose question is it? How does it begin? Where does it come from? How did it ever find out about you over the sound of itself, with nothing but its own ignorance to go by? W.S. Merwin. Welcome to the Poetry Oracle Podcast. W.S. Merwin passed away last week at age 91, so I thought I would honor him today. I also realized that all my posts so far have been male poets, and I promise the next few will be female, including Mary Oliver, who also recently just passed. To the Soul is a brilliant, perplexing, and multifaceted prose, much like our souls themselves. Merwin, for me, asked if the soul is even real. He affirms that it is real by negation. For he then moves into what soul might be, toying with words to describe what really cannot be described. Or perhaps, if it isn't real, whatever real means, it sure feels like it, and I hear a voice or voices inside me that is certainly some phenomena that is not my thinking mind. And my soul currently is visiting with many voices and questions. Perhaps this is true for all of us. I do not know. In the first part of the poem, or is it one voice with many inflections, or does one voice take over and dominate at times, not leaving us alone until we hear it? And at other times, do I or we tamp it down, tell it to go to its corner and be quiet? And what is it that tells it to do that? For me, it is often my dominating, thinking mind. The mind that says that I have to keep it together or get things done, achieve, prevail, or win. And that to listen to what soul wants could be risky, just wasting time, even being lazy. And I could lose if I did that. At other times, it is my heart that says similarly for soul to quiet down because it is too hurt, too tired, too broken, and or too sad to follow soul's questions and answers right now. And following Colin's poem from my last podcast, conscience also visits at times and says that to listen and follow soul's yearnings could cause me to do something I might regret later, causing me to feel shame or guilt because of a soulful retort, action, or response. For me, soul does not care so much for the considerations of the mind, heart, and conscience all the time. It is ribald, likes risk, trying the new, and stepping out of the mind, heart, and conscience sometimes, and just feeling for the life force that is all around me. Soul smiles for me when I am in the trees along a river, listening to great blues music, reading the words of soul in poems, in a great sexual experience, really tasting great food I carefully prepared, and the joy of an ice-cold beer or top-shelf bourbon flowing down my throat. My soul likes resting peacefully on the nape of the neck of a beautiful woman. But, like all forces inside our guest house, it has its darker side, the essential yang side, too. Soul also likes a good battle, where even death is on the table, because it is fully alive then. All pistons in the body are firing, and there is a certain buzz. I remember this often in my old law enforcement days, when I would be in pursuit of a foe and successfully arrest and remove someone who was or could hurt others in the world. I remember boxing as a kid with my father and defeating the neighborhood bully. Soul used to tell me to climb up the side of a mountain, traversing the rocks with no zip line or safety. And I fell a couple times, luckily not to my death. Soul likes that too. Yesterday, I attended a symposium on the use of psychedelics to treat mental disorders, pain, cancer, and those facing death. What was repeatedly mentioned was how the disconnection in the world was affecting patients, and how these psychedelics provided experiences of connection, love, peace, and of even divinity. Perhaps there was a time where community provided more of these experiences around the campfire, at the town hall, in spiritual rituals, and within families who worked and lived together every day in their daily activities of life. Soul was fed at these places, connected, and perhaps this helped the synapses in the brain as well. So back to Merwin. In the second part of the poem, does soul answer with a question? And where does the question answer soul asks come from? What tells my soul to ask the questions inside me? Brilliant question and perception into the human condition by Mr. Merwin. My first inclination is to say divinity, since it is all divinity anyway, and perhaps it is the question again that cannot be answered, but with a question. And the last lines, as a question answer, for me says a certain innocent ignorance is involved here. What is this? And I admit I am struggling, to answer what Merwin means here. And again, maybe there is no right or wrong answer, as with all great poems, only what does it mean to me right now in the lens I am seeing and feeling through. My mind says, well, ignorance is bliss. Does he mean that? Does bliss ask questions through my soul, inviting me back to experience itself? I don't know. My mind likes the idea. My heart says yes to it, too. That in its brokenness, a dose of soulful bliss would feel like a gauze, a respite, a healing balm. And my conscience, always checking me, says yes too. That this mysterious, ignorant bliss does not seem to be particularly worrisome. In the end, my soul says first, thanks for hearing me with this poem and for speaking from my language for a while. And I am reminded that if my soul is silenced too long, put in its corner, it can come out and take the rest of me down, and I then put my mind, heart, and conscience suddenly in their own corners for a while. Today, listening to it, Soul says, let's take the dogs today and go to the woods and listen. Be a bit ignorant, innocent, and quiet, while open to learn from the questions the great trees and Old Man River have to say to me. So Puck and Cormac and I are off, and suddenly none of this matters anymore. Deep bow and blessings to you all until the next time. About W.S. Merwin, and this is from New Yorker magazine. The former U.S. Poet Laureate W.S. Merwin was known for his anti-war and ecological activism. Between 1955 and 2014, Merwin published over 200 works of poetry and prose in the New Yorker that speak to the breadth and singularity of his monumental career. Merwin won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. His prose often, as James Richardson stated, need to live in a world where the simplest things had stories, where the stones in the garden were growing things for themselves. Merwin passed away last week in Maui at the ripe old age of 91.